And so before we begin, I have to do this. Sing along with Toby.
10 out of 10.
There we go.
So
I just had to get that out of my system, you know?
I love it. Toby.
It's so good. It's what we call perfect in the music space.
Oh, yeah?
It's the nice jingle. Yeah, I love it. I'm a fan.
I think we came up with that on the spot in our first episode. We were kind of like, oh, what should we do? Like, oh, maybe we'll put our heads together, and we're like, should we do this? We're like, okay.
That makes it even more special, just like a spontaneous in the moment thing.
Yeah, we're just kind of making it up as we go sometimes.
Love it.
Yeah.
How was your day going today?
It's good. It's a nice day. The sun is shining and
Beautiful out.
Yeah, been working away on some exciting things. It's been good.
I am so excited to chat with you. I had a chance to look at your two things that you're working on today that I'm so excited to chat about. Incredibly moved by the link that you shared, the YouTube short one about how do we show love and stuff. Like, I'm very excited to chat about that. But we'll get to that.
There.
We'll get to it.
Well, how's your day going, and how's your new family member?
Yes, he is doing well. He's doing well. We're adjusting super nicely. My daughter is in daycare part-time, so Monday through Wednesday she goes to daycare right down the block. And my wife is just super starring it up in terms of all the things, the breastfeeding around the clock. It's intense. It's a lot, but I'm seeing this level of I just love observing the connection that they're creating, and me and him just being able to, like, I'm back to work and stuff now, doing things. So when I get the opportunity to get home, like today, I had an hour before this. And just holding him and just looking at him, his eyes are open, just figuring things out each day. It's beautiful. So I appreciate you asking.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be a fan of yours as well. He's still just. I think my wife was reminding me about at that age. There's only certain things that they could see and make out and stuff.
Right.
Like high contrast stuff and all this. So we just started introducing some of, we have a 2-year-old daughter, like I mentioned, and some of her old stuff, the hand-me-downs, all that good stuff. And he's doing really well. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm just blessed for the opportunity.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yay. Absolutely.
I'm so happy for you guys. It sounds so nice.
Thank you so much.
A little happy family with so much love.
It really is. Wait, so what room are you in? This is a dope room in the background.
Oh,
you got the colors,
this isn't
the colored
even
drawers.
this is kind of the boring part. But this is kind of where I do most of my regular work, and I got a ton of papers all over the place. And then this computer is where I do like editing and kind of more heavy lifting, because this is a a MacBook Pro. But then over here is like, oh, can you see that? So I only see like a small section of
I can see.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I made it sideways. Yep, so I can see your yellow chair.
How do you do such things? Okay, cool.
So top right on mine and yours, you could change the orientation a little bit if you wanted. So I have mine small and I have yours like bigger.
Oh yeah, I want mine small.
Yeah. It's like, otherwise we're going to be staring at ourselves the whole time. We want to look at the guest, right?
I know. Okay, how do you do that again? Up in the upper right side?
Yeah. So on the upper right side of, let's see, either mine or yours.
Okay.
Right? You should be able to hover over that and like minimize frame, it looks like.
Yes, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I see it. Okay, so now you're seeing my water bottle.
Yeah. Yep.
my emotional support water bottle. Yeah, so then this is all leftover set from Caitie's classroom. We just moved it out of our studio and changed it into like a green screen, and we brought it up here because I do kind of I do some filming up here for social media, and it's just nice. So we got some and then some old crafts, and that was a really lovely sign that a family brought to one of my shows that we did last summer here in Toronto.
Oh, how cool!
I know, it was really cool. Yeah, so it's a nice office. When they were like, "Oh, you should have that office," I was like, "Really? Me? I should?"
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that is it's a vibe. It just fits the whole everything you do so well.
Yeah,
so I definitely
very
like it.
colorful. We got the guitar, so you can just pick that up anytime.
Nice. I see a plant on the other side. What kind of plant?
It's definitely a fake plant. Because I had real plants, but I just don't water them. Like unless it's on my work schedule or like my work to-do list, so I'm not doing it. So that's a fake plant.
Yeah, there you go. That's the type of plant it is. You adequately answered the question. Love it.
Yeah, it's a plastic one.
Man,
but it suits the needs of my office space.
Absolutely. And I like how this is the perfect part here. It's like it's right next to the window because we know they need a lot of light.
Of course, the plastic plants need to thrive in the sunshine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a very happy plastic plant.
Oh, 1000%. I mean, it couldn't be happier. So let me ask you this question. Yeah. What was little Caitie like? What were you like growing up?
Well, I think I was a pain in the butt a lot of the times. I was...
That's surprising.
You think so?
How so?
Well,
yeah, I'd say
I'm the oldest child. So I was my parents' first kid, and I have two younger siblings. And I think I just was pretty precocious, and I knew what I wanted, and I could kind of like manipulate the system a bit to get what I wanted.
The system.
Yeah. And, I was not quiet. I was pretty rambunctious, and I think I've mellowed out a lot. But when you hear stories of that my parents would tell or my uncles would tell, it's always kind of like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that.
Right. Sorry to put you through all that.
Yes, I've been trying to make up for it.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I was pretty loud and, a little disturber a bit.
Into music?
Totally.
At that age?
Totally, yeah.
Big
Always
time?
really drawn to music I would hear on the radio, and all my favorite shows and movies had music in it. Pushing the furniture to the side so I could like dance in the room, putting on shows for people. When I would say goodbye at family gatherings, it was the whole like, so long, farewell, like doing the whole show.
Right.
Yeah. So music was always really, really big. Loved it.
That sort of segues into like thinking about what you do now and thinking about you as a young child. Like, if you were to look at yourself as a young child and now see obviously what the type of stuff you're doing, is like what you're doing now in line with what someone would say like, oh, I could see Caitie getting into this educational music space?
I think so. People kind of always told me, oh, you're going to be a teacher. They also thought that I would maybe go into marketing or advertising. But in true, like... young Caitlin self, when people would tell me these things, I'd be like, I'm not doing that. Forget it.
Just because you said it. Yep.
There's no way. But you can't fight what you like. And I always did really like education. So coming into that space in this way where I get to sort of have both the performance and the creativity and the teaching is really awesome. But I think even when I was a kid, I was really aware of kind of other people and how they were feeling. Even though I was a pain, I was kind of a people pleaser. I wanted people to be happy and to feel comfortable. And I still feel that way, especially for kids. I want kids to feel confident and comfortable, so much so that it kind of it hurts me when I'm like, oh, it's so hard being a kid. They have so much to learn and they're going through all these things and they don't understand. And, people aren't always nice to kids because they're misunderstood. Yeah. So I wanted to always make other people feel comfortable. And so I feel like that's a big part of what I'm doing now too, is trying to give kids that confidence and be like, it's okay. And giving them some tools that they need to feel confident, or just giving them something really fun to do. Yeah.
That's incredible. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, when I hear the term people pleaser, that is something that I oftentimes, as I've realized about myself over the past, I'd say several years, I own that and acknowledge that is indeed who I am as well. And now it's like understanding the pros and cons of that personality trait. What you just mentioned is like sort of channeling that element of who you are into a way that you are able to please millions of people. You know what I'm saying? Like on your channel, you're able to like have that type of extraordinary reach, which is like what an amazing time to be alive, to be able to, you know, make the right decisions and allow yourself the opportunity to leverage this crazy thing called, you know, social media and YouTube, that we could reach people across the world. It's really quite remarkable. Like I have a engineering background. I worked at Verizon for many years, doing a lot of engineering and marketing and all kind of things. The former version of myself, I do a lot of different things now, but it's cool to like remember a time when I was working on stuff that led to a lot of the stuff that we see today, like people like yourself and people like me being able to have a conversation with a fellow YouTuber in the education space across the, I won't say across the globe. I'm in Jersey, you're in Toronto. We're not that far, but we're still, you know, this wouldn't be possible several decades ago. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And maybe you feel the same way, that when you're trying to please people, but when you're thinking about other people and what their needs are, and considering what they want to hear and how you can address that. So I think that's also like a little bit of a superpower sometimes, if you're really considering that. And I don't know if you could do it from a place of needing it for yourself, but I really feel like I want it for other people.
Yeah. And you're doing what you can within reason to, you know, fulfill that, right? I guess ultimately, which is definitely a good thing.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, I think sometimes, I think you were maybe alluding to this a bit, that people pleasing can get a bit of a stigma, but to own it and to be like, this is something that you can turn into something positive.
Yeah. And I think for anyone listening that may have either a similar sentiment, a similar realization about themselves, or something different, but still something that can be good or can be bad depending on how you look at it. I think, I don't know if this is the case 100% of the time, but I think oftentimes, yeah, if you think of the positive aspects of that thing, like be creative and be hopeful and be, I guess, intent on trying to figure out ways to leverage the positive aspects like you're doing. So I think that's definitely a good thing for sure.
And you too.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. So how did you get, how did this all happen?
How did it happen? How did we get
walk
here?
Walk me through it, because I'm so fascinated with like whatever you're about to share, no matter how interesting or uninteresting you might think the story is, because I don't know it yet. I purposely didn't, you know, research too much because I like learning, like with my guests. I just love hearing. I love hearing like what was the journey like to get you to Super Simple and doing the stuff you're doing now.
Yeah. Let's see, how far back should we go, I suppose. Well, it was always
when your parents conceived
my parents
you.
conceived me. It was a summer night. I know the story. They have told me.
My
parents and I are very close.
Yeah, we'll put that on the Patreon. Okay, that's the Patreon.
Subscribe, everybody. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, well, I guess I was always singing, always performing, making music videos with my friends and putting on shows. So that was kind of this part of me that was always sort of there. And then it just got fostered in different ways, whether I knew it or not, with the education I chose. I went to a dramatic arts high school, and then I have a film degree. I went to a university and got a film studies degree. And then decided I didn't want to work in film. And then I was like, film takes so long. You have to do the whole film, and then you might not even like it by the time it's done. So I was like, let's go back to performing. So then I was working in schools. I was working for a company that did touring theater in schools, and got to talk to the students. And that was really exciting. And that was kind of my first professional gig, performing and working with children, and combining the education and performing aspects of it. And then I started session singing. So I just hustled a bit and made a website and hired somebody to do some karaoke tracks, and I recorded them, put them on a website, and sent them out. And with session singing, I did session singing in New York. I moved to New York City for a little while. And I was there. I was also doing music classes for kids. I had sort of heard this job. A friend of mine was already doing it, and he was just describing it as singing to babies. And I had pictured that in my mind, that he was sort of sitting cradle side in these fancy Upper East Side apartments singing lullabies to kids.
Yeah.
That's what I had in my mind. And it wasn't that. So once I started doing that myself, it was just sort of like a caregiver and tots class and playing guitar and doing that. And I worked for a bunch of different people under their curriculum. So I learned a lot from a lot of different people. I worked with maybe half a dozen different companies. So sort of took my favorite parts of all of them and some of my own little twists. And when I came back up to Canada, to Toronto, I started my own classes. And from there, I was doing classes in schools, and I was doing events and birthday parties and classes in all different parts of the city. And then I was also doing session singing still. And then that is how I got connected with Super Simple. This whole story, getting to that part where I was working with a composer named Myro Stam, singing some of his songs. And then he was also composing for Super Simple at the time. And he knew they were looking for a narrator and vocalist for one of their animated shows called Treetop Family. And he said, I think you would be great for it. So I went in and auditioned and I met the team. And that was my first job at Super Simple, was narrating and singing Treetop Family. And then from there, animated. So that's how I got introduced to Super Simple. It was kind of right place, right time. And I had gotten connected to Myro just by sending out a cold email. I was kind of like, here's my I'd Googled Toronto sound designers, and he came up, and I sent cold emails out to a ton of people. He was one of them, and he hired me to sing a song, and that's how it happened. So it's kind of the stars aligning in some ways when you look back and see how it happened. It was a bit of luck and some hard work. Yeah, always a combination, I suppose.
Oh, 1,000%. At the end of there's a podcast I listen to a lot called How I Built This by Guy Raz, and he interviews a lot of entrepreneurs and founders and thinkers, and pretty much any major or mid-sized company you could think of, from Uber to Cisco to just Instagram, Microsoft, like every company. He's interviewed like the founders. And I love that stuff because I'm, an entrepreneur myself, and I'm always thinking about how do I leave my mark, on this world and stuff. And that's the question he ends every interview with is, when you think back to everything we talked about today, what percentage would you say it had to do with hard work and what percentage had to do with luck?
Interesting.
Most people, usually it's very similar to what you just mentioned because, to your point, like, the cold email, right? The cold email is something that is kind of tricky because, I don't know, for me, it is, it's like the numbers game. Like the more you send out, I suppose, the better chance you are to have some people reach out. But I think like I receive a good amount of cold emails myself now and stuff. And I don't know, like what is the one, this kind of go on a tangent a little bit, but like what would it take for me to like stop my tracks and actually give it the time of day to actually read it and kind of look at? I think the answer for me is kind of like, does the email seem as though it was like somewhat personalized, or someone put a little bit of effort in, or is it just some copy paste thing that's just going out to everyone, I guess? I don't know if you remember in your case, like when you were sending these out, were you kind of just like, what was your headspace? You were just like, let me just cast a wide net type thing?
I was casting a wide net, but I would always, I had moments where I could personalize it with a name or the company. But I think that's also kind of where the luck comes in, because it also, I get some cold emails too, and it's going to depend on when I open that email. What am I working on? What time of day is it? Like, do I feel in that moment overwhelmed, or do I feel like, I can consider something different and new? Yeah. So that's kind of where the luck comes in, is how are you going to catch these people on the other side? Because that's going to depend on whether I'm able to respond or not. I
mean, take our interaction, for example, right? It's no different here. So yeah, that's really awesome. So you got in the company through an animated show that you were narrating, and what was the other role that you mentioned?
Singing. Yeah. So each show, it follows this little family in the oak tree, all of the little creatures. Yeah, it's very nice. And there's a song in every episode and a little story that the narrator shares. So that was it. And I hadn't done a lot of narrating. I'd done a little bit of voice work, like voiceover stuff. So this was new for me, and I was kind of like, ooh, can I? But it was very exciting. And then during that time when I was recording Treetop Family with them, they had a live action show that they wanted to do called Sing Along with Toby. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that. I just love it.
I'm so glad you love it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and they were looking for a human performer to perform with their puppet Toby, their character Toby.
Yeah.
And up until then, they Super Simple had just been animation and puppetry. Well, not just, I mean, it's a lot. So they were puppetry and animation, and they were looking to add a live human, and they were like, hey, maybe this person doing Treetop Family could. So I did a little audition for that, met Toby and chatted with him, and then they said, okay, yeah, come and Sing Along with Toby. So it's like,
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was very exciting. Holy moly, very exciting.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once Sing Along with Toby was wrapping up, YouTube dropped this new feature where you could now go live on YouTube. Remember when that was exciting? When that was like new? Yes. So that was around that time. And they wanted to try that new feature. Because YouTube also, like when they release a new feature, you kind of have to play with it or risk not getting your stuff fed in the algorithm. So got to try the live show. And as an animation and puppetry company, it's very hard to do a live show in that format. So then there was another sort of audition. It's kind of like, can you do live on camera stuff? And so then they hired me to do live action content, specifically a live YouTube show, and that ended up being Caitie's Classroom.
Wow. So you're saying, so a couple things with that, because this morning I was watching you, not even thinking I'm chatting with you today. It was more so, Kayla wanted to watch it. There's your thumbnail. Nice. Like, let's go kind of thing. So it was so cool. And I didn't even realize about the live aspect of what we've seen up to that point. If some of them or all of them or most of them were actually live, because they were just done so well that because some, live can be hit or miss, I guess, right? If people are prepared, stuff like that. But this one, you were giving shout outs to people.
Yes.
When we were watching this morning. So that, I'm assuming, was a live thing.
Yes. So all the shout outs, we did about 2 years of live shows.
Wow.
And we would do it every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Man, it was so fun.
So cool.
Yeah. And I had a big TV kind of in front of me where we were showing the comments. So there was a scroll going. And I was just sort of catch the shout outs that I could give. But then what I also really loved was interacting with the audience doing activities. So like, let's say we were drawing a picture and I could say, oh, what color should I make the flowers? And I would say, oh, wow. Kevin in Jersey says purple, and we'd do that.
Yeah.
Or if we're singing Old MacDonald Had a Farm, I could be like, okay, what other farm animals should we do? And it was so fun and so insightful too. I loved hearing the answers from the kids. And sometimes I was genuinely like, oh, that is the greatest idea. I would never have thought of that. Yep. I love this. It was really fun. But we stopped that. We stopped doing live shows in 2019 for a couple reasons. One is YouTube changed their policies due to the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule that came about, where you could no longer have comments on children's videos. So if you ever look on YouTube and notice there's never any comments, so that is a part of that new Protection Act, and it's a good thing. It limits exposure to anything that could pop up unwanted on children's media. So we were no longer able to do these live interactions during the live stream. Our other issue was, luckily and gratefully, our show was getting a bigger audience, and everybody wanted a shout out, and the show became so much of the shout outs. And me, as my people pleaser, I was like, I have to say hello and goodbye to everybody. Yes. And it just became so hard to then actually do any of the sort of the bulk of the show. And then people would be upset if I missed them. And I hated that people were left out. And then people on the other side of the world who couldn't tune in because it's the middle of the night. When we do the live stream, there just wasn't equal opportunity for everybody to be involved. And it was just heartbreaking. And we had been doing it for 2 years, and we wanted to have something that people could watch at any time and, not wonder why I wasn't saying their name or just enjoy it the same way. So then we decided to do all our videos pre-recorded, and that's when we created the Caitie's Classroom series. So there's a ton of live videos. There's like over 70, I think, live videos. And then we have 26 episodes that is considered our Caitie's Classroom series. And those episodes are 22 minutes long. And they each have a theme. Some of the stuff recreated from the live, some of our favorite parts, and some new things. And there we were able to do new things because we didn't have to switch cameras live, and we could add in different graphics and kind of bring in some fun things that we couldn't do on the live show. But we couldn't do the shout outs, but we hoped that people would love that just as much. And then people who couldn't join in on the live would have an opportunity to be a part of the classroom in the same way. Right. Yeah. But it is interesting that so many people watch those live shows still. Because I'm still getting questions about how do you do it.
They get I guess shared in a way because they're so well done that it's, as I'm reflecting and thinking, there's almost not even a significant difference between these two that you just mentioned, which is a testament to, like, essentially, because I do some live streaming. I do a lot more, video on demand type stuff, but I love live streaming. I love doing music, taking requests. Like, I love all that type of stuff. And I've learned that, like, I don't know, in order for the live stream to, like, be good, I think you have to be prepared beforehand to some extent, right? And kind of know a little bit about what you're doing, or in some cases, like, have it, like, super planned out as if it's not even a live stream, but you just happen to be doing it live. So you get, like, the best of both worlds. You get, like, this super good quality and, like, well-paced sort of thing, but you're also, like, I mean, you just mentioned it. Yeah, like, taking feedback or suggestions from the audience. That's something that people love being seen, being heard. So I could totally understand what you just mentioned, like someone who's just waiting for you to acknowledge them, but it's, like, impossible to, get everybody. So it makes total sense as to why the pivot happened.
Yeah. And plus we just didn't have the comments anymore. So, and we're a bit of, like, we're always kind of a moving, like a shark that's always swimming. We're always trying new things and thinking about, okay, well, what else can we do? We don't often do the same thing for too long, which is fun, but then it's also people who love a certain format want more of that thing. But we like to say that there's almost 100 episodes of the classroom, of Caitie's Classroom. And we're working on some new stuff. So who knows?
Let's go. I love that. I love that little teaser. Before we get into said new stuff, what does it feel like? Because, I spoke to Natalie from Miss Rachel. I think I mentioned in the email or the original correspondence with you. And so, like, the whole idea of, like, in her case, she was mentioning how at the time that she did those episodes, I believe Miss Rachel was not as big as it is now. And so she was kind of doing it just for fun sort of thing, and doing a great job with it, obviously, and stuff, but had no inclination of like what it would become. And the fact that like so many kids and for several years now watch it so often and everything, and so you're like a staple in households now. So like from your perspective, I guess like when you take a moment to like think about like how does that feel to know that you are famous amongst so many of that age group? Like that's pretty cool. And how does it feel?
This is like, I get asked this question often, and I feel like my answer is so not juicy, or like, like I feel like I'm such a boring person to ask that question to, because I don't feel anything. I mean, it's just, my life is so
nothing
normal. Well, I have a hard time, I guess, I don't know, realizing that.
Okay.
And we get wonderful responses, and I feel very lucky to have put so much of myself in these videos and on social media, and for the most part, all I get are like super kind responses, like the nicest things, videos from kids, the nicest. And those I'm really trying to soak that in and feel it. We have the sweetest audience. Oh, they're so nice. But I don't think my life is anything extraordinary in terms of like fame or even getting recognized. And we're just usually so focused on what we're doing and what's coming next. And that, I don't know, it doesn't, even when we do shows, and like we did some live concerts last summer, and hopefully we'll be able to do more, and people would come. And they have signs like that sign there, and they're all excited.
Yep.
I don't know. It's so nice, and I appreciate it. But it kind of, once you're back to your real life, it's faded, and then you're just reading on your couch.
Let me take a second to kind of say, like, I guess the alternative to responding to that is like, if you did feel the way that maybe some people might assume, like if you felt famous or different or big or whatever the case is, that's probably not, I mean, I don't know. It's probably not great, I guess. Right? I think it's good that you feel the way that you do, which is that you get feedback, positive feedback from the people, so you know that it's reaching people. I think that's always very important, no matter what your audience size is. As I've learned, like when people, whether it's in a live stream or a comment or a DM or email or whatever, when people reach out to you and have like genuine appreciation, or they tell you in person, maybe someone, I don't know, like I've actually met some people like in person, when they have a genuine appreciation for what you do, that is major, because it does get, sometimes like things can get lost in the sauce. I never say that. That's weird. They
Put it on a t-shirt.
They can get, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it can happen, right? Because it can get like a little bit lonely in the creator space when you're making things and you're reaching a whole lot of people, but you don't always get feedback, because you don't really know for sure if you're moving the needle and how significant, I guess, of an impact that you're making. So I think that's awesome what you just mentioned, and I want to talk about imagination time, because there's a few things about this that we got to kind of segue into that when I guess a year ago or so, like I think Kayla was in the car with us, and we put on like YouTube music or YouTube videos of things she's familiar with, and I was just like, as a podcaster myself, I was just like, oh, like podcasts, that makes a ton of sense. Like we want to moderate screen time and stuff, right? But the audio, the stuff we're hearing, the stuff that she's hearing, it just made a lot of sense to me, like that there should be, and I didn't extensively research a whole bunch of different ones, but I like just wanted to see, like, are there a lot of like podcasts for this age group, like the stuff that we're going to talk about right now. And I have your note here, and I want to know specifically about what it used to be called and why you changed the name to Imagination Time.
So there's actually a ton of children's podcasts out there, all different kinds, and they're very, very cool. We're fans of children's podcast. So we're like, we should make one. We should probably make one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you know, like we offer videos for kids, and as interactive as we try to make them, we also know that kids need a lot more than screens. It's not always appropriate or what families want all the time. So we wanted to make something where we could connect with families in a new way and just sort of offer something different. So our podcast, when we first started it, which was last year was the first season, we called it the Super Simple Podcast. Ta-da! Because we're super simple. Ta-da. And we have a podcast. Of
course.
The Super Simple Podcast. Great name. We're like, no problem.
Right to the point.
Yeah. And we were getting really lovely feedback. Again, with the feedback, like I'm so grateful that our stuff is reaching people. And of course, I want to reach more. Yeah. Talking about having people consume it. I want to reach more people always. But anyway, back to the podcast. So we released the podcast, and we were getting very nice responses from people talking about the different ways they were using it in the car or before bed. But it wasn't necessarily like reaching a lot of people. So when you call yourself the Super Simple Podcast, it doesn't necessarily tell you anything about the podcast itself, other than it comes from Super Simple. But we wanted to reach people who maybe weren't already enjoying Super Simple content. And the podcast content itself is all about imagination adventures. Because we know imagination time, or imagination is an important part of children's development, and it drives creativity and problem solving, and there's so much fun in imagination. So we made something that encouraged imagination. So we thought, well, let's try calling it Imagination Time, because that's really what it is all about. And and then in addition to exploring imagination, we also wanted to make something that was calming, and offered some little social emotional learning moments that parents could use in their everyday life, to make difficult moments a little easier. So in our imagination adventures, I'll weave in moments where something unexpected happens, perhaps, and I'm made to wait, and where we have to wait for something. Maybe we're baking a pretend cake, and we have to wait for it to finish in the oven. So we have a little song. Goes, waiting, waiting, we're patient as we're waiting. And our hope is that families could take those little social emotional earworms, as we refer to them, and use them in their real life. So whenever you need to wait in a line, or there's a difficult moment that involves waiting, you can sing that song and remember, like, oh, right. So we're kind of showing how to regulate some of those emotions that come up in trickier times when we're using our imagination. Yeah. And each episode's inspired by a super simple song. And we do a little like mini meditation activity, because when we're using our imagination, we're clearing everything out of our heads. So we lead through a little bit of mindfulness, of taking deep breaths and doing a body scan. So now we can really are ready for our imagination adventure. It's really fun.
Yeah. I love that. What would you say? What would you say is the? I'm assuming it's probably the same demographic as your YouTube series.
Interesting.
But what would you say for someone checking out for the first time? Like, what age group would you say you guys are kind of focused more so on?
I think this is probably great. I mean, I've seen 2-year-olds paying attention to it, but I hear a lot of people saying that they listen to it in the car on the way to school, or at bedtime to calm down. So I think it could be anywhere 3 even to 6 years old.
Love it. Yeah.
And hopefully it's for families too. Everything that we try and make, we're also keeping the parents in mind, because we know co-viewing is so important. And so if parents also are enjoying it, maybe there's a couple little jokes in there for the parents, or something that they're comfortable watching, then that's great, because then they can sit down and engage with it with their child. And that's the goal too. So when I hear that parents enjoy the podcast or our videos, that is kind of, I'm so grateful that is coming across and that they like it. That's a huge win. That's a dream come true.
That's massive, and kudos to you guys for just acknowledging that, how important that is, because there's a ton of stuff on YouTube that kids love because it's animated and quick cuts, and it's like, not the best necessarily, right, to watch too much of. Leave it at that, like, okay. But there's also this level of appreciation, like from the music aspect. Like as a musician, like I think, like, my daughter, she's shown signs that she really, like, we have a guitar over there. I want to eventually learn how to play guitar. I'm a piano player myself.
Amazing.
I think guitar is the coolest instrument in the world, personally. Like acoustic guitar, you can just take out, and I've talked about this on previous podcasts, you can just like take out to like the park and or like the woods, like a forest or a jungle. You take it somewhere, and you just like, you don't need, like batteries, you don't need plug it in, you don't need speakers. It creates this music. So I need to learn it. I need to put some steps into place this year to just kind of get started.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the coolest thing
I
ever.
will say, as someone who struggled with the guitar for a long time, the ukulele is a wonderful little gateway instrument.
Someone did mention this.
Into the
This
guitar.
is a good reminder,
because you can play it and make songs and chords far more simpler. Super simple. It's super simple.
Yeah.
And then that kind of gives you the, the feel of it and how your fingers have to move. And then also the confidence of like, I can play the ukulele. And then when you move over to the guitar, because it's harder to play a song on the guitar right off the bat, but ukulele, you could do it. I teach little kids how to play a song in like 10 minutes.
I love that.
So try that. Ukulele.
Yeah.
And then to the guitar.
And segue in. Yeah. All right. No, I appreciate that. Like I said, that's something maybe one other time I've heard kind of recently in talking to someone who plays guitar. As a matter of fact, it might have been, I think, my last conversation last week that's dropping tomorrow. She's a guitar player and singer. And I think she said that. So this is an excellent reminder. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And the guitar can be so many different sounds. It could be like folky and lovely, or it could be like total grungy and raw.
Right.
It's cool.
Right. There's a feature on my Nord piano upstairs. It has piano sounds, of course, but then it has like all other sounds, synths, etc., and guitars. And one of the guitar presets, it uses this thing called, I think it's called round robin samples. And what it means is, like, in order to help replicate what a real guitar may sound like as you're playing something on the piano, depending on, like, every time you hit the same key or any key, there's several different guitar samples that are similar but not exact, right? So it's kind of like if I keep pressing the same key over and over, it's always going to be either 1, 2, or 3 versions of
that note,
right? So exactly. So as you're playing, it gives it's so cool. I didn't even realize why was I always wanting to go back to that preset when I'm playing like certain songs, and then I researched it and was like, oh, this is why it sounds like so amazing. But of course, I can't take the 80-pound keyboard to like
you
the
can't
forest.
take it to the forest. No, it's true.
This is the goal of mine. Like I've said it many times. Like I need to be somewhere like playing amongst the animals, and preferably singing as well, because I enjoy singing as well. And it will happen before the year's end. I will make that happen. Absolutely.
You're gonna be the guitar player in the treetop family by the oak tree and the animals.
That's the goal. Hashtag goals
beautiful.
With a Z at the end. Yes. All right, I want to talk about Caitie's questions. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, I watched it just a few minutes ago, the YouTube short. And first of all, love the editing with it. Love the fact that there were like 30 to 50 people that were asked this question. I've had dreams and thoughts of wanting to do something similar with my students who I tutor. I have a tutoring company, but I just never got around to it because I have all these ideas and I got to figure out, prioritize all that stuff. But I loved what I saw there. And it was just very moving. It was so diverse. There was so many different, it was just very nice. But I want to hear a little bit from your end about how this came about. Yeah. Obviously, YouTube Shorts is a really, really, really amazing in ways really good way to reach people, new people. And so I want to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't when I first started doing Caitie's questions, it wasn't necessarily meant to be for shorts, but it turned out it was the perfect thing for shorts. It worked out. Like you said, the editing. Jesse does all our camera behind the scenes of the camera, and he does all the editing too. He did all that editing. It's amazing.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. So how that came about was I just kind of asked myself the question when we were thinking of new ideas of, the idea was posed to me of, what do you want to make next? And I was like, oh, geez. Okay. Well, I kind of asked myself, what do I think kids need? Or what is my hope for kids? And this was a couple of years ago. And, the world seemed like everyone was angry at somebody. It kind of emerged to me that I wanted kids to feel open and accepting and kindness to things, experiences, and people that are different. I think a lot of times, mostly as adults, kids naturally have more of that, I think, than adults as we grow up in society and we put up these barriers. And when we see things that are different, instead of being like, oh, how neat, how interesting, we're kind of like, oh, that's wrong. That's not right.
Yep.
And then it just perpetuates this, there's this culture of hate a lot of the times. And I didn't like it. And I certainly didn't want our classroom friends to be growing up feeling that way. But I was kind of like, how do you teach that to anybody, whether it's a child or not?
Right.
So what I ended up doing was I invited 40 different people to come into our studio, and I tried to find 40 people who were different but also similar. So I was looking for people with different backgrounds and abilities, and I definitely wanted different ages, and I wanted to ask them all the same questions. So there was about 40 different questions that I asked them, and I wanted them to be questions that kids could understand, that they relate to, and that they have answers to themselves. So some were kind of big, like, how do you show love? Or how do you know when someone loves you? But then other times it was like, how do you put on your shoes? What do you like on your hamburger? And it all kind of, the idea kind of came to me because, as an adult, somebody had told me that they tie their shoes with 2 little bunny ears, and then they tie the bunny ears. I mean, it's so silly that I like learned this as an adult, but it's like I was today years old when I learned you can make 2 bunny ears and tie them together to make a knot. Because I had always done 1 bunny ear and done like the wraparound and under, and it kind of blew my mind. And I was like, holy moly! Of course, there's more than one way to tie your shoes. But then I started thinking, okay, like a 1-year-old can't even put on their shoes. They need help. And I was thinking about a friend of mine who's in his 80s, and he has to use a long shoehorn to put on his shoes. And he has a collection of shoehorns. And then I was thinking, well, what about somebody who's an amputee, or maybe they don't have feet, or they need to have a prosthetic foot? How do they put on their shoes? Kind of and then my mind was like, whoa, there's so many different ways to do this simple thing. And I thought I think that's so cool. And so if we could show kids all these different ways, but then also similarities. So like, what do you like on your hamburger? Some people feel very passionate about mustard. So,
or mayonnaise or something.
Yeah. So it's like maybe somebody who looks totally different than you, or someone who's super, or like a different age, likes the same thing as you. And maybe there's somebody who's very similar in age to you or background or whatever, and they like something wildly different that you never would have considered to put on your hamburger. And I wanted to celebrate that and to make that an exciting part about people and meeting people. I wanted to spark conversations. I'm hoping like kids are going to ask these questions around the dinner table and answer them themselves. so that they can know themselves better as well. Because I also think when you know yourself, you're more able to handle all the things that life throws at you. So I want kids to feel secure in that way, but then also open to all the things. So that was very exciting. So we have 40 YouTube shorts that go through all the questions. You could just sort of binge them, and on all the incredible people who came in to answer the questions. And we're working on our long form series. So we're going to have longer episodes where we kind of dive into some more of the deeper themes of the questions. And that's maybe going to be coming later this year. But that's a real passion project that I'm so excited we got to do, and something totally different from what we're used to doing the classroom show and music videos and stuff like that. Yeah.
Few things.
I feel like First I just gave a monologue. I get so excited.
I was just going to say, you are excited about it, and I'm excited to hear. I'm excited whenever anyone is excited about something, because I love seeing the passion, first off, particularly when the thing that they're excited about is something that I'm also interested in and excited about, which is obviously not all the time, right? Some things are interesting to me, some things aren't. This is incredibly interesting to me for many reasons. So like for me as an adult watching the one that I've seen so far, but you better believe I'm gonna be binging it. Okay, me and my wife, we're gonna watch those YouTube shorts. So for me, that is content that you purposefully, so many things to say, you purposefully had a diverse, age group, background, interest, all that stuff, like you mentioned, and like there are so many as a result of that, there's so many different people that are able to watch that. Certainly not just kids, not just 2 to 6 or 7 year olds, but anyone can watch that video and be like, and find some enjoyment and wholesomeness and like, wow, I needed that today, sort of thing. And just that one video so far. So I love that to start with. I also love the fact that, like, for you to have been, it sounds like you mentioned, at the beginning of your dissertation that you mentioned that like you were given the opportunity to like talk about your progression from voice acting to now being the face. But I would imagine you were either involved heavily or lightly with like the planning of the stuff that you were the face of. Maybe you were, collaborating with other writers, et cetera, et cetera. But now you were given the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? We want to see what you think. What would you like to do? That's what this sounds like. And you came up with a slam dunk of an idea that I'm just very moved by. I think it's incredible. I think it's really, really dope. And by the way, for me, let's go with cheddar cheese.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Ketchup, fried egg, ideally. I guess tomato and lettuce. Yeah, so that right there, right? I think that's, maybe bacon too. Ooh. Some like applewood bacon or something. Let me get one of those to go.
One to go. I should have had because I think that there's, I should have my rapid fire questions for you. All my Caitie's questions.
Look, we'll do some more collabs. Don't you worry. Sweet. Okay. This platform that we're using right now, because I don't like editing, but I understand the importance of it, of course. This platform is called Riverside, as you know. After this conversation is over, guess what's going to happen?
Tell me.
Guess what is going to happen? This platform is going to, it just does so much. I'll just say one thing. I'll click a button and it's going to auto-generate for me anywhere between, let's say, 10 or 5 to 25 vertical clips of the best moments of our conversation. How does it know the best moments? Well, everything that we're doing here is like auto transcribed, and it uses some AI intelligence to know like, I guess to some people it's like scary. It's like, it's watching us, whatever. That's fine. Okay, AI, it's a part of what's happening.
We signed into this program willingly.
Exactly. You signed. Look, you said it better than me. That's exactly what happened. But yeah, no, it'll like that moment right there. We just chuckled. It'll know that, and it'll, this is possibly a good moment type thing. So it makes my job a lot easier. I'm a one-person, super simple Khordmaster team here doing my thing by myself. Maybe at some point, in the future, that changes. But yes, kudos to you. I'm excited to watch the rest of these, and it's just a great idea. What is your burger? What are you having on your burger? What's the thing?
I like ketchup, I'm a pickles on the side maybe, and A non-negotiable is the raw onion.
Oh, okay. You like a little crunch on there.
Yeah, that's maybe my hot take. Love the raw onion.
So let's talk about the raw onion for a second. Okay. I ordered a pizza the other day. We got to talk about the raw onion. I ordered a pizza from the best pizza shop in the area called Manville Pizza. Shout out. And I ordered a custom pizza of grilled chicken, spinach, and I put on there caramelized onions because I thought that would be a nice thing to have. I like caramelized. Yeah. They taste totally different, total everything than a raw onion. They accidentally didn't caramelize these onions. They just had regular onions. At first, I was sad. When I started biting into this, these onions, they were so crunchy and delicious. I was like, I'm never going back. Like, I loved it so much on my pizza. So shout out to the raw onion.
Onions. Sometimes I just get like a cheese and onion pizza. It's so good.
There you go.
I was introduced to the cheese and onion pizza on New Year's Eve of the millennium when it was 1999. Okay. I partied like it was 1999 by playing Jeopardy video games and eating a cheese and onion pizza. And
cheese and onion,
so good. I would and that was a moment where I was like, cheese and onion, no way. But prove me wrong all day long. So
can't
good.
Be, man. That's amazing. Let me hit you with some rapid fire questions. Okay. Name a show that you love. Besides Super Simple.
Like a TV show or a show?
Yeah. It's like TV show.
Okay. My favorite TV show, it's not on anymore, but it's The Newsroom, and I could watch that show over and over. I've probably seen the first episode like 10 times. It's the Aaron Sorkin
okay.
One. Rest in peace, Newsroom.
Yeah. All right, so I've heard something about this.
But that's for adults. That's a very grown-up show.
It's an adult show. Yeah. Okay. That's your favorite show.
That is definitely one that I could always, I'm always up for it. Like, if you want to watch that,
go back to.
Let's do it. But for a kid show, this is kind of an interesting, I grew up with The Elephant Show, Sharon, Lois, and Bram, who are Canadian. They're Canadian, so
okay,
but everyone up here in Canada knows all about them. And they actually liked one of my Instagram posts today.
Hey, let's go.
So that was very exciting. I screenshotted it and I sent it to my mom because she took me to one of their concerts when I was a kid, and I was like, wow.
What kind of show is it?
That's a children's show. So Sharon, Lois, and Bram are a trio. They sing songs. They have an elephant friend in an elephant costume, and they just sing really fun songs, and their show is so wonderful. So they do music and a kids TV show. So there we go. Sharon, Lois, and Bram in The Newsroom. Aaron Sorkin in Canadian children's media.
I'm saying both ends. Yeah, I got to check both of them out. Okay, a place that you've visited that you loved.
Oh my gosh. Place that I visited that I loved. I went to Cape Cod last year, and I love the ocean, the beach. There was manatees. Were they manatees? That sounds silly. Maybe they were seals. They're probably seals.
A hybrid of the two.
There was, it was. I love the ocean, and I love the water, and it was beautiful.
So peaceful. Yeah. All right, so I'm assuming the temperature in Toronto, it must be similar, like year-round, similar to like here in Jersey, because you're not that far from where I'm
we're
at.
not far, and we're by Lake Ontario, so we get a little bit of the lake effect, which makes it a little milder, so we're probably similar.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, movie. Name a movie that you love.
This is really cheesy, but I love Titanic. It's like simultaneously... It's there's something like so comforting about it, even though it's so sad. I find great comfort in watching it.
It's an amazing movie that I've watched semi-recently.
Oh yeah,
within the past 2 years or so. Yeah, I watched it again, like as an adult. I have
to watch it every 2 years. I get like a craving, and my craving is starting to like sneak up again. So that's maybe why it's on the forefront of my mind.
Just you mentioning it, us talking about it, it's like you're gonna clear your schedule for the rest of the day. You're like, you know what? Because it's like a 3-hour movie, of course.
Yes.
Like, let me go watch this.
But
that was an amazing. It was an amazing.
But when you
movie.
watched it, you're like, it lives up. It holds up.
Oh, 1,000%. There's so much about it that was so cool. Like, I don't think I ever researched this to be true or not. Like, so
tell me,
at
I
the
know,
very end of the movie,
I know the facts.
You
I
know,
know the facts.
You know the stuff. Okay. Well, there's actually a few things. One of them is, or well, the one I was going to say is that towards the end of the movie, where Rose is on her bed and she's like, you know, goes to sleep and dreaming, and it cuts to that scene. So and so okay, yeah, that scene, we have the pan of the portraits, the pictures of a woman on the horse and everything, right? Like stuff that she talked about. So who was that on those pictures? Was that the actress when she was younger? Was she an actress? Was that really her?
Yeah.
Or was that was her, right? Like the actual.
Oh no! So
like the actual woman who plays
it was
that.
Kate Winslet. Kate Winslet was in the photos.
Was it really?
Yeah. Because she was Rose to Educator, so it was like her. We were seeing her in the photos when she was younger.
It was okay. So I didn't, because it was obviously black and white, and which is an easy effect, of course. But yeah. Okay, so that was her. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And she was on she was on the horse, and she was riding it like a real cowboy, no side saddle stuff, and she was in the surf. Yes. She was doing all the things she said she was going to do. She never let go.
Right. Oh my goodness, what a movie. Okay, so the other thing, Jack. And what he has a last name in the movie, as far as I'm
Jack Dawson.
Dawson, of course. Okay, so people, he's a fictional character, right? Not a real person, or unbeknownst. I guess maybe people didn't know that, maybe assumed that it was real. But people who are super fans of the movie, like the U's of the world and me, found I don't remember the exact details. I just read it like a long while ago. But gravestone of a real person named Jack Dawson, and that started this whole thing, like, is this the real person? And there was like a little monument and stuff like that. I don't have too many details about that, but it was just one of those things where people were like determined to find him, and there was like a sliver of hope that, oh, this is a real person, but it was a real person, but not really the person. From
it
the
was,
movie
I think it is a gravestone in Nova Scotia. I have seen it. I went to it.
Oh, so you know about that too. Wow. Oh, wow. Is that right?
I went to it.
Oh, wow.
Well,
okay.
I was in Nova Scotia, and my friend I was with was like, oh, I have a surprise, and took me to the cemetery where it was.
That's wild.
I
okay,
saw
so you know all about that.
But yeah, it's not based on that person. It's just the inspiration.
Sure.
And that's kind of what's really cool about the movie is James Cameron, the writer and director, took all these little sort of Easter eggs that we know from the history of Titanic and put it into the movie. For example, there's a part where Jack steals a coat, and what's happening in the background is this man playing with his kid, I think, and they're throwing these spinning tops. And that was a photo that was taken on the deck of Titanic that actually exists. And he recreated that for the background. Didn't have to do that.
Wow.
Didn't have to do that. And then the guy riding down at the end when the ship is sinking and he's drinking out of a flask, that was an actual survivor of the Titanic, and he survived by drinking a bunch of booze, and then his blood alcohol was okay with the cold. That's a real thing. So there's all these little things that 13-year-old Caitlin was very reading all the books and getting all the info, very into it. And I just thought that was so cool. You know, that he didn't have to put that level of detail into it. They actually built the ship. They built a whole ship.
I didn't even think about that, but that is clearly what happened, huh? Not like a
I think he built half of it, but it's still cool.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, so to your point from earlier, and I can totally understand this. You were mentioning about the slow process of film and acting and like putting out, I guess, one project at a time. So like that's juxtaposition with the fact that 30 years later, or however many years, close to 30, when you have these masterpieces that actually do work, they sort of transcend time. So that's kind of like a interesting thing. Wow. Certainly with music, that's a big thing for me as I'm, learning Clair de Lune right now on the piano. And that is the most beautiful thing ever. And like this man wrote this piece in the 1800s. Really? How could someone know to put this here? Like it's just the perfect thing. Yeah. So I'm very, I'm very in line with what you just mentioned too. Cause it's like, you don't really know, but I think that it's important to, acknowledge the other aspect.
It's bamboozling to think of how long some of these things have been around and how amazing they are. But that is a very good point, because that is also why I got into film, was because I wanted to share a story and make a difference. And I thought film was the best way to do that. But then I was like a 21 impatient person. I was like, let's get to it.
Let's go.
But now we just released something a couple weeks ago that we filmed almost a year and a half ago. So I definitely am back in it takes a while. And that's just because of the amount of stuff we're doing. It's not necessarily, it takes that long to make it.
Right.
So I'm back into that a bit. So it's a good thing. That's nice. Yeah. It might take a long time, but it'll stay around for a long time too. Longer than a live performance does.
Right. You have a chance to have brunch with any person. Now, I'm going to let you frame the question. Sometimes I do of all time or someone living. What do you can answer it. You can ask it whatever way you'd be more interested in answering. Do you want to go like only people who are living?
No, let's do everybody.
Anybody.
Let's
cool.
cast a wide net.
You have a chance, my friend, to have lunch or brunch with any person spanning the history of time. Who do you select?
Eek. Well, there's so many people, but my answer for this is always, I would love to have lunch with both of my, can I choose two? I want to have lunch with both of my grandmothers. That'd be really nice. My Nana and my Omi. Man, oh man, if I knew then what I know now. I wish I could talk to them again.
Wow. That's beautiful. Did you have a chance to know them when you were younger?
I did, yeah. They I had them for most of my life. But I want more.
Awesome. Yeah. Selfishly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
love that. Where would you nice. Would you do a lunch or brunch with them? Were they people who you think want like a mimosa?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Let's do mimosas. Yeah. We're going to do brunch. They're going to come over, and I'm going to make all the things and have all their favorites, and we're going to hang out and spin records.
Love it.
And maybe we'll do some dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds
Love that.
Nice.
Love that, my friend. High five.
High five. Bloop, bloop. Love it.
Well, thank you again so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure, and hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for chatting.
All right.